Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and for Gloomspite Gitz fans, this is such an exciting time because the new rules have been released for the Scourge of Ghyran from Games Workshop for free on the Warhammer community site, which gives you additional rules for playing your Gloomspite Gitz army. Seeing as you just had your battle tome out, this means even more stuff to play, which is exciting. I'm going to not stop saying that I think getting free rules and updates is very cool and fun for the game. Okay, so you get 2 battle formations, you get a new spell lore, and you get an update to fanatics, both types of fanatics in this. Let's dive straight in and have a look at what it all means. So the first thing we're going to look at are the battle formations. You get 4 battle formations. Do you get 5? I get 5. 4 in the Gloomspite Gitz book, whichever. You got an extra 2. These are, if you're new to Age of Sigmar, these are like army special rules that you write down during your army list. There are 2 to choose from. The first one, the Sunbiter Pack, gives you the once per turn army ability in any combat phase, the ability Extra Snappy. You pick up to 3 friendly Git Mob units that charge this turn. And what's good about Git Mob is they can have retreat and charge, so it can be quite often. You add 1 to the rend characteristic of the companion weapons used by the targets for the rest of the turn. Now, it's fair to say that the Git Mob units definitely need an uptick in damage potential if that's all they actually do in the game. Unfortunately, +1 rend, as you can see here on Aged Index, doesn't actually make them that impactful. A reinforced unit against a 4-up save does 6 damage, and when we've given them rend, they now do 8. Sure, it's a little bit of an uptick. That's on a reinforced unit, Snarpack Cavalry, sorry. I don't really think it's much, but Git Mob fans are going to say, hey, Rob, we didn't get any rend on our attacks anyway, so +1 rend feels really, really nice. And you're like, okay, I understand. I guess, does it really change what armies you can play or do anything different to your army playstyle? Not really. If you are running a Git Mob army, then you're already going to charge, so it's like a bonus to you, but it doesn't really like open up new build options inside of the army book. But unfortunately, the Gitz book is one of the most kind of like, separated books or divisive inside of itself with different keywords and different groupings put in together. But I personally don't like that. I don't want to be a downer during the beginning of this video, but that's not very good. But we can move on because we've got the Gittish Tide, where once per turn in the army at the end of any turn, you can use the ability Grots upon Grots upon Grots. Pick up friendly non-squig Moonclan units. So that's going to be stabbers and shooters that is contesting an objective with the target. Add 1 to the control score of the target unit for each model in that unit that is not contesting any objectives. This is kind of doing the same thing twice, but if I have one stabber from a unit of 40 stabbers holding an objective, then that means that I'm going to get a control score of 40, which is amazing, right? Very, very cool. But it also means, and this is really important, I don't have to move the whole unit onto the objective, like all the models, which gives me more options and more movement ability with my unit, which is very cool. It means I could charge, put 1 guy on an objective, and it means the rest can be fighting a unit that I want to fight, which is very good. This opens up and makes our Moonclan units, so our stabbers and shooters, more effective, which is exactly what we want. It's everything that the first battle formation isn't doing. It's very cool. Love to see it. Love to see hordes of goblins on the board. You also get access to a new spell lore, which is super fun, which means it puts you in an elite group of armies that have 2 spell lores to choose from when you're writing your army list. This spell lore has got 3 spells, like most spell lores, and the first spell is called Bright Fright. It's cast on a 6. In fact, all of your spells are cast on a 6, which is really good because when you're casting your turn, a 6 is good, below average of 2d6. But when you're casting your opponent's turn at -1 to cast, means a 7 is still pretty reasonable to pop off. So we love that. So the first one, Bright Fright, you cast, a Gitz wizard casts it, obviously, and then you pick up to 3 friendly visible Gitz units wholly within 12 inches to be the targets. Then you obviously roll 2d6. Each target can immediately use a retreat ability as if at your movement phase. No mortal damage is inflicted by those retreat abilities. This is super good if you end up in combat with a really killy unit that you don't want to fight in your turn. Retreat out of combat. That way your opponent's going to not be able to swing in your turn. That's nice. To hero phase movement as well, which is also good. Not bad. It's also an unlimited spell as well. So you can cast this a lot of turns, a lot of times, which I think is really interesting, but they still need to be wholly within 12 inches of the caster. So I think this is going to be situational. It's not amazing, but it could come in key and be really useful. The next one, Git Speed. In your hero phase, you can pick a friendly Gloomspite Gitz wizard to cast his spell and then make a casting roll. Until the start of your next turn, you add 2 inches to the move characteristic of friendly non-Troggoth Gloomspite Gitz units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Obviously, some of your chariots are already super fast. your boingers, your bunker bounders, a bunch of different stuff in here are very fast, and now they get a little bit faster, which is cool as well. Low cast value, which is good. It's all of the units within the bubble, which is great. It's a nice ability. Plus 2 inches to your movement. It's not flashy, but it's cool. The last one, the Gaze of the Glare Face, is casting a 6. You pick an enemy unit within 18 inches. Until the start of your next turn, the target cannot use run abilities. And you halve the range characteristic of the target's ranged weapons. So that is really nice counter into some shooting units, also really nice into some units that want to do any running away or anything like that at all. So fantastic. I like this, and I think the only thing that this is probably better than the spell lore that you find in the main book, which does have access to a teleport, right? I think this is very fun. Very cool. Yeah, you cannot use redeploys as well with that run ability spell. This is fun. It's maybe not quite as much as I would want from a different spell lore, but I feel that about all of the spell laws already. I think the spell laws are a little underwhelming generally across the game. Some notable examples of that not being true. So it's okay. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let's look at the Warscrolls. Next up, we're going to look at the alternative Warscrolls. If you're not sure how this works, in Age of Sigmar 4, in the new Ghyran pack, from when the new GHB launches, you will have Loon Smasher Fanatics from your book and Loon Smasher Fanatics that will be different for a year. You can choose either one of the two for your army list, but you can't have multiple instances of the different ones. So I'm either going to take all the ones from Ghyran, or I'm going to take all the ones from the core book, and I can't take either. I could though take some Spore Splatter Fanatics from the book and the Loon Smasher Fanatics from the Ghyran, as an example. Does that make sense? Hopefully, I think I made that more confusing. Anyway, so Loon Smasher Fanatics have got a variant War Scroll, and I like it. The chat, I'm just going to be really clear though, hate it. So let me know in the comments below what you think. I think is actually quite interesting. So Loon Smasher Fanatics have got 5 models, and they've got 1 health each with a 6-up save, and they move 2d6 inches. They've got a control value of 1. Now they did on their other War Scroll have d6 attacks, but now they've got flat 3 attacks each, hitting on 4s, wound on 3s, rend 2, damage d3, which does mean a unit of 10 is going to have 30 attacks. Hitting on 4s, wound on 3s, rend 2, damage d3, which is quite a lot of damage. Also, they changed their points to 110 points. So that's a lot of attacks for 220 points if you wanted to go that route with it. I think what a lot of people are upset about is they lost their strike first ability, but we'll go on to talk about why I think they're pretty good. In the deployment phase, you can use the ability Lost in the Horde, where you pick this unit if it's not been deployed, set up this unit in reserve, Lost in the Horde. This unit has now been deployed. This means that you're going to deploy it inside a unit of Moonclan Stabbers or a unit of Moonclan Shooters. Then you can use the ability Whirling Destruction, which is once per turn army in any charge phase. This means taking multiples of these might not be very effective, but we'll have to see. You set up this unit anywhere on the battlefield, wholly within 3 inches of friendly Moonclan Stabbers or Moonclan Shooters units. Then this unit can move 2d6 inches. It can pass through enemy models and their combat ranges, and can end their move in combat, but it does not have to end their move in combat. I think that's an important thing to talk about. Then you roll a dice for each enemy unit in combat with this unit or that unit passed across as part of the move. You inflict an amount of mortal damage on that unit equal to the roll. Now, it's pretty true that in Age of Sigmar 4, D6 mortals, which is what we're talking about here, being able to roll a D6 and do that many mortal damage, is pretty rare. Normally, it's the bad D3s, where it's a 2+ do D3 mortals. This is multiple instances of D6 mortals. If I was in a position to potentially be able to roll high and move these fanatics through multiple different units, that's multiple amounts of D6 mortal damage I could do. Of course, number one, I could just roll 1s, although I would still do 1 mortal damage. And I might not move them very far. 2d6 inches is not very far. But I start out with an initial 3-inch setup within 3 inches of a friendly Moonclan Stabber unit. So I already start pretty close to the enemy, I would say. I think there's 2 versions of the 2 ways to play this, which I think is interesting. Number one, I charge into a certain section of the board because it's in any charge phase. I release the fanatics, and I am only taking a small unit of 5, 110 points. Then I 2d6 them, and I hopefully ping a ton of mortal damage on their expensive models or units that they don't really want me to be hitting. But because I could just pass through enemy units, that's pretty strong. And there's a potential to have a wild turn where lots happens, which is kind of what I think you want from Fanatics. Fanatics are not meant to be a reliable unit. They're meant to be a unit of psychos with balls that run around while they're high on mushrooms. The other version of this, obviously, is your opponent charges you. Your opponent charges your unit of stabbers, and then you release the Fanatics, and then you do some mortals. Then you move them outside of combat range, and then in your turn, you charge them in, and you do a pretty respectable 15 to 30 attacks that do D3 damage, which could be pretty good. And that's still only going to cost you 210 points. I guess the real question is, what does the Gitz community think? Let me know in the comments below. I think this is different, and different in a good way, because it gives you tools. Now, the Spore Splatter Fanatics have got an alternative War Scroll. Again, 5 models, but these models have only got 2 attacks each. They've only got 1 health and a 6-up save, so they're very, very fragile. 3s and 4s render 1 damage D3. They are not good in combat. They are a debuffing unit, though. They subtract 1 from the attacks characteristic of weapons used by enemy units while they're in combat with this unit, thanks to the Choking Spore Clouds ability. And then they have the Spinning Loons. This unit can move 2d6 at the end of any turn, which is every turn, but only once per army. And it can move through the combat ranges of enemy units that can finish that move in combat. Yes, they're 70 points. 70-point units aren't good. And this unit aren't good. What are your use cases for them? Maybe the -1 to attacks characteristic is something you think would be really beneficial to your army. Maybe. For a unit that will then immediately die. Probably not. So I don't really rate these. I don't think. Okay. So I think it's an okay update. New spell lore is interesting, and it does add some stuff. I like the Loon Smash Fanatics War Scroll, the Spore Splatter one. You can miss me with that update. And then you've got a new way, or a better way, maybe, of moving your Moon Clan around the board, thanks to the Gittish Tide battle formation, which I think is really solid. And the Sunbiter pack isn't that impactful, and I'm not really in love with it either. So I'm going to say, okay, like a medium, like we're talking like a Jalfrezi. It's not too spicy, but it's not too plain either. There's definitely some spicy things in there, I think. But you're going to have to let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching my video. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.